What is up, you savages? This is the Protect Your Neck podcast, and I'm your host, Dan Tom. Analyst is work you can find over at MMAJunkie.com, as well as the Action Network. But on this here program, the Protect Your Neck podcast, we break down high-level MMA. That's what we're going to do here today, tonight, whenever you're listening to this. Hopefully it's for the fight. Recording this on a Thursday on site at Xtreme Couture with a long-awaited, long-overdue guest. Not just a colleague, not just a coach, although he deserves the utmost respect under those titles. He is also, full disclosure, a friend of mine, a good dude, Eric Nicksick, at Eric with a C_XC MMA on Twitter if you want to find him. What's up, Eric?
Man, it's been long overdue, bro.
I know, man.
I'm excited to be on.
You're out here killing the game and stuff, and with me with my my lack of self-esteem, so to speak. I don't want to bother people, and I know it's never a bother. I know you're going to correct me right now, but man, honestly, I'm just parlaying to a compliment because you're killing it, man.
Not only is it not a bother, I listen to your podcast every week.
Oh man!
I mean, you and I listen to Anik and Florian. There's like two guys I listen to a lot.
Great podcast.
Anything that Luke Thomas is putting out, but I can't stress enough for any of you bettors that are looking for insight or trying to understand how to break the game down. I always refer to Dan Tom on a lot of this stuff. And let's get a little deeper. There's been many a times I've called upon you early on in the careers, and I've said, hey, break this guy down for me. Let me know what you see in the tape studies, because I think sometimes we get so tunnel vision in our ways that we lack or miss or don't see something that maybe an outside perspective can see. So you've always had a great eye for the sport and a guy that I've trusted and been able to call upon and break stuff down for me.
Thanks, man. That's a huge compliment coming from yourself. And I've always stated my bias, and of course, whether you state your bias or not, there's always that natural bias, right?
For sure.
We're always going to kind of root for our guys, our gals, however you want to phrase it. And I absolutely, come full forward with that. But man, does it help when the people you go to bat for
they win.
Go ahead and make you not look like an idiot.
Yeah,
and,
for
and
sure.
do everything that you've been saying because of stuff that you can preach about as, you further embrace the leadership role, but that consistency, that accountability, and I think that's something that we can all translate in all our beats, right?
100%. I think, too, the thing that makes our relationship so genuine is that I don't expect you to pick our guys every time out.
Absolutely.
And the thing with that is if you are seeing something that's making you pick somebody else, I don't look at it as a disrespect to me or the gym or the team. I look at it as a way of improvement. Oh, okay, Dan sees a lack in this area, then that gives me an idea of what things we can work on the next time out to go be better. My dad always said that, like, I love you so much, I don't want to leave you the way that you are. Sometimes your best friends are the ones that should be the most honest with you and helping you grow. And if we don't get that from some people, right? Sometimes the people don't want to hurt your feelings.
Yeah.
No, man, it ain't about hurting my feelings. I want to win. So if you tell me something to improve my fighter, or if your analysis shows you something that makes you want to bet the other way or look at that matchup and go, that guy's better there than this guy over there, right? Don't get your feelings hurt.
Yeah.
Fix the fucking problem.
That's really applicable to a lot of things, obviously, but for this podcast purposes, betting just as much as it is to the much more important job of coaching these combatants getting in there, right?
100%.
And you got to be able to shake those off, because anybody who does this know that there's no badass, even the guys that are rare, that are lucky enough to get out undefeated like a Khabib, not only are they outliers, but you don't think that guy had bad days at the gym or 100%. Self-doubt at some point to get to where he was?
Right.
So, these are important things. So we're going to try to take as much as we can as we push forward here. And we're going to try to, do our air quotes job here. It's a fun thing to do to break down some fights. But you guys are going to get to hear, me and Eric talk. It's not like a normal guest. I've known this guy for over a decade now. He's been here since this gym opened. I only signed up, I think, a year after this place opened in 2008. But this guy's been here, like, literally every time I come here since. So, we're getting our butt kicks a lot under this roof, and I think learning lessons in multiple ways have really, really taught us a lot. So we'll do our best to parlay that for you guys into a coherent breakdown. But first, we're going to kind of recap last week. Usually I might skip this part. You know, Eric's been so gracious with his time. We're filming here on site, which is why I'm not doing video, so apologies to you guys. I am getting the pieces together, but you should have seen me fumble the ball with just the basic audio setup. So let's just be glad we're getting an episode this week. This is Dan Tom we're talking about here, folks. But usually I would skip this part, but Eric is kind of part of the recap. He was watching along, I take it, with your tweets.
Yeah.
You're hearing in a bunch of the recaps of many of the podcasts giving you shouts, as they should. It was a very a Mystic Mac-like tweet. Obviously, you were calling the patterns of crews and said, you know, not only am I going to cite this pattern, but you know what? Everybody can point out a problem, but can you offer a solution? Tweets aren't very much to offer much of a solution, but you did. It was a simple one, but it was an effective one. Obviously, Cheeto Vera has an excellent coach with who I want to praise, Jason Perillo.
Yeah,
I'm sure
absolutely.
you have great praise for him too. Obviously, you know, great minds tend to think alike. But man, talk us about what you saw. Did you see? Obviously, you're just making reads honestly going in, which is, I can't stress enough how crucial of a tool that is for a corner man or woman to have, to be able to have that. So that was on full display. But what was your thoughts going into the fight, though? Like, who did you think was going to win? Do you have any leans?
I actually had money on Dom.
Okay,
I put money on Dom in the respect of, you know, I like the value, right? And sometimes as bettors, it's not necessarily like who I think, and this is, you want to bet on who you think is going to win, right?
Right, yeah.
But ultimately, I think when you look at a price point and you look at Dom at a 2-1 underdog or just shy of that,
right.
I thought there was a lot of value there, and I thought Dom's elusiveness and his footwork can be tricky at times to catch reads and pick up on. So you and I do this quite a bit, and I think when I'm at home and I don't have anything going on and I'm watching the fights, I try to live tweet a little bit more from a coaching perspective, right? Yeah. Maybe give a little analysis of maybe the things that I'm seeing or the things that I'm picking up on, and it just really was the timing of the tweet to the proximity of when the kick happened. I think in a lot of ways it made it go, oh shit, you know. But that read was there, and I think he was doing it quite a bit, and it was a pattern that I think a lot of us were picking up on. The thing that Dom was doing, we actually in our gym we call it a brow. It's from Dwayne Ludwig. Yeah. It's a brow step where he was throwing a right cross and stepping through and rolling a left hook, and basically standing, like rolling a left overhand, if you will. But the problem with it was Dom was exiting over at a perpendicular angle with his right hand in his hip pocket. So the exit hook was giving this big gap between his right hand and his right ear, essentially. And a good way to shut that down is just throw something up that midline or that left kick side. Yeah. So that was really the read. And I think, you know, obviously Jason and a lot of those guys, they probably saw that in their tape study as well, is that movement pattern. Yep. And which way does he continue to exit? Now, if you actually go back on Chris Curtis's fight versus Jack Hermanson, again, Chris Curtis being a natural southpaw, Hermanson being an orthodox fighter, Hermanson kept exiting that same pattern, that same route. So when Chris would get him back to the cage, I said, he's waiting for you to throw that cross just so he can hard exit. Don't be afraid to show him the cross, make him feel as if the exit is there, but put the same side head kick behind it. That'll close that door. So what you saw in Cheeto's fight, if I remember correctly, he threw a flick jab, right? But he used his left hand to occupy the space and then throw the kick behind it. The tell is a lot of guys, they tend to throw their hand down, the hand to the hip, to generate more power for the kick to come through. It's great in Muay Thai or things like that, but remember in MMA, you're trying to disguise every little option that you have coming at you. So if I throw a jab, but I show you something to occupy your eye line, maybe I'm not throwing across at you, but I'm trying to slide your head in a certain direction. We're not throwing punches, we're placing them. So I'm placing a punch inside your ear to make you feel as if you're slipping. Meanwhile, I have the shin bone coming up through that left side, right? And then where the proximity of the cage was, Dom had no exit. The only way he could exit was essentially into the kick.
That's a great read. I love the analogy and the examples you brought in there. I wonder, as you're talking about this, movement patterns seem, you've got some strengths obviously, but I definitely think one of your strengths, not crazy to say, is movement patterns, and it's definitely not crazy to say is people who don't know your background. Not only is it so much you have like coaching people in your blood, but your experience and your family experience also is football.
Correct.
And football is a ton of movement and patterns, and I feel like that maybe is one of the more underrated transferable things. Now, for me, I'm not a football guy, but the one thing I love about football, if I wanted one job, it would be a defensive or offensive coordinator, because I just think it's the coolest freaking jobs, as strategizing and the kind of stuff we're talking about now. Yeah. And, I don't bring this to one up because I'm going to parlay it to a grander point. Something we were actually talking about at the beginning of this podcast was your boy here had a switch kick call, but to the body for the Brandon Moreno-Kai Kara-France fight.
There you go.
Now, I had it in my breakdown, so I can't say that it was a live read because I actually made this call in my breakdown, because I think I actually saw it happening before the first time they met. That fight was, of course, a rematch. But people ask, well, why do you see the body kick? I'm like, well, whether he's crouching, dipping, fading, sidestepping, evading, all these different definitions and purposes for tactics that we can label them, all the different things, we're splitting hairs on all those different things, but he tends to go right more often, right hard, and that's just for a guy who already spams and really has a good feel for Moreno. I suspect he's like there's right-handed southpaws. Like I've talked to Chris Curtis. I'm like, you're right-handed southpaw, aren't you? He's like, how'd you know? I'm like, exactly. 'Cause I'm one too, motherfucker.
Yeah,
but sometimes I've wondered if there's maybe even more rare. There's left-handed orthodox fighters.
I agree with that. I can see that.
They just got trained out from school, from writing, not just the martial arts typical train out where we don't like southpaws, but even in school and stuff, right?
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think that the way that the game is evolving, you have to be able to hit just as well from both stances, but most importantly, you have to be able to defend from both stances.
Yes, yeah, that's something I'm really getting tested to now. I'm trying to give guys orthodox looks in the program I am, but I'm naturally a southpaw, and even though I'm very proud of how capable I can be from both stances, at the end of the day, I can't bullshit myself when I got paired up with the big football player guy who swings 300 pounds. I'm going southpaw because I need all the defense I can possible, all that comfortability.
Yeah.
But back to the Moreno note, it actually made me think of a previous call. No, we're not just going to suck each other's dicks here. We're going to move on with the recap, folks. But this was really apropos when you were working with Uriah Hall against Krzysztof Jotko.
Yeah.
And that seemed like people were like, oh, yeah, that crazy comeback. Yes, it was everything you remembered. But one thing you probably missed, if you go back, in the corner, you were giving him specific direction. Not just, and don't get me wrong, at that point, I don't blame any coaches for going cheerleader or whatever, but you were giving him specific directions. And you'll hear Eric go, he's fading to this direction to his left. You can cut it off with your right. So it wasn't just Hall, spamming a right hand. Like there was something to that, and I remember seeing that, and that's kind of where I first picked up, and I took that from you actually, Eric, and I've really just paid attention from then on actually. So,
that's awesome.
So bringing it back full circle to that directionality of Dom and what we're talking about.
That's one of my favorite moments, kind of a comeback that I've ever had in my career, just because the magnitude of the first round that Uriah had. It was a 10-8. He got 10-8 that round. In the whole camp, we emphasized that you're going to have to walk through some fire in this fight. We knew that. But I was like, if we can get through that fire, I'm telling you, you're going to find an opening, and it will be there. And then as the round progressed in round one, we saw the opening there. Obviously, we were on the ground quite a bit, but it was a split second of a read, and I knew we had something. But you just had to believe in it. Credit to Uriah, being the athlete that he is. He saw the hole, and he tore through it.
Absolutely, man. That was a classic right there, definitely. But yes, the directionality is definitely important. And finishing up on Cruz and Vera, I don't blame you. You weren't that crazy. I mean, I felt pretty strongly toward Vera when the matchup was first announced, but after my research, I respected Dom's side so much that I didn't have him any parlays. I didn't have him straight up. I just took the sprinkles for Vera around 3, 4, and 5. You know me, I like to do those .17 units. Like that's my little small shot when we're playing with big numbers.
I remember seeing that. That was smart.
Because I mean, obviously you can't go spamming the whole rounds or whatever.
Right, you lose money.
You lose money. Even at that kind of sweet spot number that I really stand by.
But you took a guy who starts off slow.
Yes.
And then the more he builds up, he might finish his fight.
Yeah, and you just fire those big numbers. Even Cheeto being the favorite, you were still getting plus 14 round 3, plus 1800, which is what it actually cashed in round 4. So I always like those, especially on those and obviously Cruz is proven, so it wasn't that, but I'll especially go for it if it's like an unproven guy or a guy who maybe gasses. Like okay, the fight probably is going to end early, and you don't know which one of these two. But if it goes late, this guy's got the edge. I'll kind of take that angle, and that was all I had. So that was a nice bonus on what was probably I'm not going to suck my own dick here, but like it was like the biggest betting night I've had since since Verdum beat Kane, because I don't know if you remember that fight, but that was
Mexico City.
It was just one of those things where it was like Kane was, and no disrespect or whatever, obviously. Prayers to his family, all they're going through right now. But just as far as just reference that really quick, it was crazy, right? Because everyone was like, "How could you disrespect Kane like that?" And I was like, "It's not a disrespect on Kane. It's Verdum looks like he's in the shape of his life. He camped out in
Mexico City.
Stayed there. City.
He was there for like 2 months.
Yeah, and me and my buddy were like, we hit the line once and like plus 350, and it only kept going up. Like we went again, and then we went a third time the week of because Kane waited till fight week to go, and we're like, wait, he only waited till fight week, because it was a guy that was so injury prone, and he missed so many dates that it was to the point where like, hey, UFC's pissed, pressure's on, like this is a date where he's got to show up no matter what kind of condition he's in. And we all know none of these guys are ever coming in in a full shape, right? So that was a nice one, but this might have rivaled it. So this was nice. We had Landwehr that hit the night before. I'm not gonna brag on this one because I knew that I was probably gonna lose a year of my life even if I won the bet, which I did. I'm like, I don't know, I might have lost it. But like this was a crazy fight. Just recap. What was it like to be? What would it be like to be a corner for a guy like Nate Landwehr, Eric?
Man, I would have a heart attack, and I was actually on the Landwehr side just because of experience and value again.
Sure.
Threw a couple $100 on him because I think he was plus 295. Yeah. And I'm big on David Oyama. I'm big on him, and not only am I big on him, I'm big on his coaching staff. Absolutely. And James Krause, his gym.
A lot of mutual respect.
And I think when you look across the board with James's style, it doesn't matter if it's Molina all the way up to Julian Marquez. I feel like their striking styles and patterns are very similar due to the pad holder. Whereas I feel like Julian Marquez should be more of a planted, sit down, even Gina Mazzani for that matter. But then I feel like all of them try to hit pads or hit like James Krause hits, right? And some of those styles really fit. It really fits Molina. It really fits Tim Elliott, right? And it really fits Oyama for me. And to my mind, when I see those movement patterns, right, I think that this kid here transcends that ideology very, very well in what they do. But I just felt like the value on Nate being a little weathered in that division. He's fought some of the tougher guys in the division. I wasn't super impressed with David's last outing. I thought he was fading a little bit in that fight and was able to get a finish against a guy who was moving up from 135 on short notice. Sure. So there were some things that kind of alarmed me there. Yeah. But when you're talking about a guy like Nate, and he had some kill shots there in round 3. Yeah. He had some times where he could have just stayed on top, topside half guard, and laid ground and pound and would have gotten a finish.
I think crucifix elbows didn't even need to put a lot on him. Just keep
nothing,
going,
man, because there was nothing left in that guy. Yeah, there was nothing left in David's tank, right? And then you see him let him back up. All right, okay, that was fun for the first one. Yeah. Especially when you're on the Landwehr side on the bet. Yeah. And then all of a sudden he gets clipped a couple times, and then he takes him back down. And there's this up and down. Then he lets him back up. Like, holy shit, man! Just win the fight. Just win the fight. Good on him. I'm sure he won a ton of fans. Yep. If you're asking me from a coaching perspective, I would have fucking flipped the cage. I would have lost it. Get on top, win the fight, get 2 paychecks, let's go home.
I lose enough years of my life doing this shit. I don't need to lose more, bro. Come on.
No.
Killing us.
From a fan's perspective, bravo, man. That was fun to watch. From a bettor's perspective or from a coach, I was hurting.
From a technical perspective, I was glad that he did show the clinch. That was a place where I thought he could get through. And I kind of compared him to a guy who trains here, Julian Erosa, where,
for sure,
he can get caught in that first round. Yep. But if you don't knock him out in that first round, you're going to be A, in for a war, and B, he can navigate that war better than a lot of people give him credit for.
Agreed. That's a great analogy. And Julian is one of the best guys in the gym. And you see this kid, man, like he can fight. And that Nate and Julian fight was a barn burner itself. Yeah. It was a fun one. They went out.
I was glad I was on the right side of that one. I went with Juicy J. I didn't bet that fight because I felt like too crazy to even touch. Yeah. But I love me some Juicy J, man. For sure. But and then the last thing on that, and from a betting perspective, kind of like with that Kane example, no one was really talking about how this was a short notice turnaround. That kind of seemed almost needless. Not I don't want to say needless because that camp, that's their thing. They know exactly what they're doing. They're educated men and women over there. I'm not criticizing in that regard. But as far as if you're looking at betting odds and you're making them that big of a favorite off of that turnaround,
Right.
well, then I got a question, right?
Right.
So it's just, again, sometimes it's not even technical, folks, right?
Yeah,
You
it's just
gotta go.
value sometimes.
Yeah,
you know,
sometimes
it's like,
not
man,
even-
this is a lot of value on this kid, and you're okay losing $100 when you lose on but the when you hit something like that, you know, and I think you and I
Yeah.
both had 4 or 5 different dogs on this card that all hit.
It was Dog City. We'll see how this card turns up 78, but kind of opposite. We'll speed chess through the rest of this. I didn't watch too much of this, but it was a good fight from what I see. Jasmine Jauregui. I was pronouncing her name like she was Brazilian, like Jaragoui. So apologies in the last episode versus Lucindo, who was the Brazilian. Apparently there was an argument for her here too, so hopefully she gets matched up well next time out.
Great fight, fun fight.
Yeah, fun
really
fight.
Fun fight. Yep.
And then we had a Azmat Mirzakhanov, of course, fought Devin Clark. I know a lot of you guys were waiting on.
Oh, Dev.
waiting on this. I played this for Eric just before we got on here because he didn't see it, and I'm just gonna play the audio here for listeners just because it was quick. There's so many layers to this. Just the fact that between rounds 2 and 3. You know, when you do an impersonation, first of all, folks, it's like you don't just do the voice. You have to do the voice and say something that they would like never say, and that's what makes it funny, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But with David Clark, like I try to turn it up to 10, but like his real life David Clark is like makes mine look like a 2, you know, because here's David Clark here, folks. Here we go. So what I love there is that Devin Clark, he's been dropped like 4 or 5 times at this point. Body shots, which are the worst, right? He's in an MMA fight in the 3rd round, about to go to 3rd round. That's not enough. The dude interrupts his own pain and suffering to tell his own father, to be the dad to his dad, like, hey, calm down here. We're in the restaurant.
Calm down.
Like that is-
Yeah, man.
And then here he almost takes out the ring card girl. But here's a part where me and my girlfriend have been just repeating this to each other. After he tells him to calm down, you'll hear David Clark go, "Fuck that shit." And at which point, like, he almost takes out the ring card girl, like, you got to imagine, like, both the ring card girl and the commission, they're playing rock, paper, scissors, right?
sure.
With David Clark's on that apron, they're like, I am not getting up there.
I don't get this guy.
You know, if the girl, if like, she was probably hoping the fight ended in round 1 or 2, so
So
her time is like, oh, fuck, I gotta make a path. Because you see her get behind her card and scurry, and then even the commission guy is like, and Eric, you can speak to this, you know, even at amateur shows or series, I remember cornering, and like, I would get a little excited, and then I'll feel like Mazzagatti hand on my shoulder, you gotta sit down, son, and they're like real strict on that, right?
For sure.
I have a feeling they're not that very hands-on with David Clark.
I bet not. I bet not. And, you know, there's so many layers to this.
Right.
And I think that you really have to understand what you need as a fighter in your corner.
Sure.
And his dad might bring an element of security, of enthusiasm that he wants to have there with him. And that, I think, to me, is the most important part for a fighter. Sometimes there's guys in the corner like, why is that guy in that corner there?
Yeah.
And it's maybe it's a comfort, maybe it's a feel, maybe it's his brother he's been with forever, whatever it may be. But the thing for me, you have to understand, and I didn't know if it was Cody Donovan or if it was Devin Clark, but you have to kind of preempt before you go to the fight and say, look, I might need my moment with my fighter if I'm the head coach or I'm wearing the mic, that you're not overtaking that energy.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're trying to get your guy calm and let him breathe. But if somebody's like that yelling at you, what does that do to your energy levels? It keeps it at a 10.
Right.
You need that minute to be able to be calm, to understand the information, to get your breathing down, and then maybe a little bit of a spike of energy before you get back out there in round 3. Now, granted, like I said, this is to each fighter, and each one might want that. You know, I had Dan Ige's dad in our corner against Mirsad Bektik, and he hit it perfectly going into round 3. You know, he's a Master Chief in the Navy SEALs. Yeah. You want to talk about one of the baddest motherfuckers on the planet? That's Tim Ige. So when it was close, it was 1-1 going into 3. There was information given. There was a little bit of a motivator. And then Tim Ige gave a little gem before his son got off that stool. Wow. And you saw a change in Dan's demeanor. That's where you see it really benefit, right? So each fighter is going to have their things and depict it on their own, as long as you give Cody Donovan and their coaching staff the opportunity to be able to say what they need to say and make the adjustments, because other than that, it turns into white noise, man.
Yeah. Like I just and again, by the way, I love Devin Clark and David Clark. He's done like interviews with my guy Aaron B, and he seems just like a salt of the earth human being. Devin does a lot of positive things for the community.
Facts.
So in no way does it, but obviously David Clark's one of the impressions on this long here standing podcast. So I had to kind of pay that off, especially because he just. I'm sorry. One last thing. He goes inaudible here, and this is the part where I just gotta play this last part. So. You know what? No, it's not playing right now. But I want to finish that thought real quick before we push on and speed chest to the rest of this. Is that it's tough because I agree, and like I didn't even realize that Dan Igue's dad was in the corner. I didn't even realize who we're going to talk about here shortly. Tyson Pedro's dad is in his corner.
Yeah.
He sounds like a very
I know
hard-nosed dude as well.
Him too. Yep.
And so that's probably a compliment to say that I didn't realize that's their dad's in their corner. And again, I'm not piling on poor Devin here because, from the outside it almost just looks like because he's so tough. There's no questioning Devin's toughness. That's why I played Devin Clark.
Yeah, me too. I was on the same play as well. Great camp, and I'm with you. And I cornered against Devin.
Sure, yeah, with Iwan.
With Iwan. And look, if it wasn't for his dad in the fight with Iwan, I think that he might have stopped or he might have quit. His jaw is broke down the middle. And credit to this guy, like, man, he powered through the rest of that fight, and it was a tough fight.
Right.
And I think having a presence like your dad in that corner can benefit. It can be whatever.
Right.
But I think it is imperative that the coaching staff and David Clark are all on the same page of when that energy is we need it now, right? And it's not overtaking.
Sure.
And again, I'm just saying, as an outsider looking in, I think having your dad in the corner is unbelievably great.
Right.
And I mean, shit, I'll take that dude any day of the week.
Absolutely.
I'll run through a fucking wall for that guy.
I would love to have to somehow pocket that energy. Not that it could
and
be pocketed.
let me touch on one other thing too. To your point, when the Iwan Kudalaba fight was over, that man was the first man to run over and give us all hugs and say, what a fight. That was awesome. So you could tell that he is just not only a big fan of the sport, he's a big fan of his son. And you can't fault a guy who has that sort of level of enthusiasm and passion for the game.
Obviously understands competing.
100%. And then the sportsmanship behind it when the fight was over.
Yeah.
Hugs, kisses. Hey, great job, fellas. He was all about it.
Yeah. That's what's up. And yeah, we're not trying to psychoanalyze here, though I will say, because people have said it's just like the exact note you touched on, which is like I almost feel like he doesn't. Is he tough as nails, or how much of it does he not want to maybe disappoint his dad? And I kind of had this flashback, like you imagine playing sports with Devin Clark as a kid, like all his friends must have been like, Devin, can you please cover your position today? We don't need you yelling at us. Like, can you just please cover your position?
For sure, bro. For sure. What a savage.
Like, he rushed the field last week, David. Devin, like, we don't need that, man. This is a junior league. Yep. So we got Priscilla Cachoeira Cash. I'm bummed I didn't jump on this one. Even after the Lipsky sickness, I was like, I'm just going to stay with my pick. I'm staying away from this fight anyways. And I'm like, you know what? There was some gold there if you wanted to take the female underdog shot, which has been cashing a lot.
Yeah, and I shout out to my man, Ian Parker. I tailed that because of Ian.
Ian's the man. I love Ian.
Ian said, hey, bro, I'm on this, and this is what I like, and here's why. And he's another guy that I look to on a weekly basis, and I listen to him and Brett's breakdowns of fights as well, and I think Ian's spot on with a lot of his stuff.
I love Ian. He's one of the guys I talk to and just tell him like. I told him, how much ass he kicked over at Anakin Florian, speaking of that podcast, and then I was happy for him to get picked up at ESPN.
For sure, me too. Ironically, he was the reason why I started watching Anakin Florian. Was Ian Parker, and him and I have been friends for quite a while. So a lot of stuff when it's great because here's the cool thing is I do my breakdowns for ESPN from the coaching role with Mark Raimondi as Brett Okamoto.
Those are great.
And then Ian is always the breakdown for the betting sides. So you'll see an article with my analysis and Ian analysis on the same, and we won't communicate prior. But we'll have the same analysis for the bettor and the coacher side. Very, very similar every time.
I love that because there's people, like, obviously, that I respect. So when I see that they're on the same side, I definitely feel a lot better or a lot less crazy depending on what the take is, right?
I agree.
And I felt crazy going for GM3, man, against Bruno Silva. I was ready to just pick Bruno as chalk, maybe play GM3s by sub, wish him well. I love GM3. Not, again, just like with the Xtreme Couture thing, Gerald Mearshart, even not that it compares to being at a gym, but yeah, he follows me and Iraq's a bit, is a very nice guy, but it doesn't mean I can't pick against the guy, right? Professionally. But in my heart, I'm always rooting for this dude, so it feels good to see him win from that perspective alone. And then, of course, to cash a sub ticket was nice.
Me too, man. And I tailed another Ian pick was to start round 2. And I liked his analysis on that. If this slows down a little bit, a little wrestling, some exchanges there, and to start round 2 hit, and I sprinkled in GM3 by submission plus 500.
Yep.
You know, and we were able to get it out in round
Nice.
3. I was like, holy shit, we're gonna get this.
And he physically looked good. Was that again another camp that you respect? That's what I love, is because you'll be very honest with your opinions. But they always come from a good place, because I don't hear anybody that like praises other coaches that from a coach as much as you, man. You're really good about that.
Yeah.
So I know you have a lot of respect. As far as Henry Hoofs, so I'm sure that was a
big
positive
brother.
sign
Yeah,
too.
for sure. You know, and I know Henry wasn't in the corner for that fight, but I know GM3 went out there because he needed to get a change. He needed to change up in his camp, and those guys, you know, welcomed with open arms. He had Bully B, Bilal Muhammad out there.
Bully B.
Coach Stout was out there with them, and I thought they did a wonderful job. And you saw it right away in the game plan and the movement and the way that he was countering punches and using his southpaw I mean, dude, everything that he was doing, I thought was spot on and great.
I love it too, especially as I was joking with my audience, like as an older southpaw myself, as I'm getting closer to compete, and I was warning my audience, my bias may come out more, but I'm still going to show my work if I pick or bet something, of course, but I'm just admitting my bias for my own sake. So you know, I can't help but look at these guys, right? Like a non-athletic guy, but still gets it done. That's definitely some things that I need to look at as a non-athletic southpaw, right? And something you were talking about earlier with Cheeto, as far as throwing a punch, and super advanced stuff, by the way, throwing a punch and placing it to encourage head movement, super advanced stuff. GM3 was arguably doing a bit of that with his circling, something that I've been really trying to do, especially after watching Volkanovski fight. Circling with the jab, making people circle and not set their feet, realizing how huge that is when someone's trying to swing hard at you, especially. And GM3 really took that to heart. He was circling for that principle, but also tagging him up with the jab because he had that head kick dual threat.
Ready to go.
And he kind of had him guessing. I'm sure you picked up with that too.
Yeah, and you know, a lot of times the lead hand side for a southpaw is very prevalent in what we call a corral. So if you're throwing a 1-3, really I'm trying to slide your shoulder. The hook is not necessarily to land. The hook is to guide your shoulder over so I can make a corral. The only threat you have to really, really watch out for is open stance spin. So if I go 1-3 against an orthodox, well, I'm kind of turning into that spin zone if you turn around and throw a back fist my direction, right?
Sure.
So when you understand what some of the consequences might be, and it's in your head, then your eyesight and your vision is prepared for that. Okay, if he spins here, then I'm prepared. I know all the weapons will be on the rear side. If I put my head to the lead side hip, I'm not going to get spun on, right? I can't get elbowed. I can't get back fist. I can't get kicked, right? So when you start beating that lead shoulder side, there's a lot of things that can be set up out of that southpaw stance.
Absolutely. I realized that today. I was kind of a bit mad at myself. I'm like, my first jab's not really landing. I'm like, oh, well, I'm not really using it to land. I'm using it to set up either another jab and more offense coming forward, or baiting their offense out and running them into a check.
Exactly, and that's a great way to look at things, too. A lot of people feel like they have to land their punches to the face. That's wrong. Sometimes I'm throwing punches at the hand.
Yeah.
Why? You're occupying their hand space, right? So think about a conventional fighter, ortho versus ortho. Sometimes you'll see guys just jab the rear hand to keep it busy, just to occupy the damn thing and say, look, man, if you're fighting a guy like Aaron Pico who's got a missile for an overhand, right, or Francis Ngannou, right, for a missile, keep that thing occupied and place the punches there. Now what you do is you eliminate one thing or slow that one thing down, which now gives them a weapon that you know that they'll throw. Okay, I occupied rear hand. Well, I'm going to tell him to throw left hook.
Right,
But I'm going to be ahead of that counter. I'm going to roll it, or I'm going to fit in underneath it, right? So go here, occupy, throw that hook, because I know it's coming next.
Yep, I love it. I also love people that are saying GM3 best middleweight in the planet. Now that they're comparing, they're of course doing the MMA math of Alex Pereira versus Bruno Silva versus Bruno Silva, and of course, at least some people that I follow are already comfortable predicting Alex Pereira over Adesanya. That's another conversation for another day. So, anyways, GM3.
Wrestle Sean Strickland.
Yes, yeah.
Follow the game plan, bud.
Yeah. There we go. But anyways, I'll gladly do that MMA math to give GM3 a pat on the back. Angela Hill defeated Lupita Godinez. I'm glad I stayed away from the favorite here.
Yeah.
But I did not cash on this dog, but good for Angie, man. I love
too.
Angie.
I didn't touch it at all.
I'm happy for her.
Yeah, but that fight really transpired very quick, right? Like it was like a week notice or something. I didn't even know it was on the card.
Yeah, it was weird conditions, and then she wasn't wrestling too, which was kind of weird.
Yeah.
Martin Budzay defeated Lucas Bresky. A lot of issues from people I respect with this decision. Even people that don't normally claim robbery saying robbery. Of course, I didn't watch it, so I'm not going to claim any of that. I didn't play it, so I can't claim anything. Did you see this fight?
I did. I watched it all, and I had Brzezinski. I hope I'm not butchering his name. I had him winning rounds 1 and 2.
Someone else I respect says
on volume. Okay. And again, we got in a little bit of a discussion about the judges that were cage side and some things that they might favor. Mm-hmm. The moment I saw Sal D'Amato in the corner or judging. He tends to lean more towards damage and or power punches, right?
Right.
Now, the question at hand is how much does one damaging shot overtake 15 great strikes?
Right.
Right? Did he get dropped?
Right.
Did he get cut? Is there visible damage there?
Absolutely.
And I didn't see that in this fight. So I was on the Bidet side as a bettor. So I got a little love there, but in my heart, I felt like Brzezinski won the fight. Mm-hmm. I felt like he won rounds 1 and 2. So it is what it is. But my whole point in that tweet was not to bash Sal, which I've been on that side, so I have to be honest. I've bashed this guy before.
Sure.
But all I wanted to do is bring up a point to some of the people that watch that from a coach's perspective. When I get on the cage side, I look at all 3 judges.
Absolutely.
I want to see who is judging this fight because sometimes it'll give you an idea of what some of these judges tend to look for. Okay? So let's go back and let's be fair to Sal. Edson Barboza, Dan Ige. A lot of people have had Edson Barboza winning that fight.
Sure.
Ige had more of the damage in some of the heavier shots in rounds 2 and 3. Yep. Edson clearly won round 1. He dropped Dan and beat up Dan pretty good.
Right.
But if you take that same criteria and flip it in rounds 2 and 3, Dan did the exact same thing, and Sal had Dan winning that fight.
Sure.
Right? So in turn, when Dan fought Josh Emmett had that clear round 1. Right? And Ige, to me, won round 2 and 3 on volume.
Me too. I know there's bias there, but I've made this argument and actually went through the pacings, and it's one of those fights that, at the very worst, is way closer than what you remember or what you get from reading a result.
Exactly, way closer. But then when you think about the way that Sal judges, right, and he looks at the trend, Josh Emmett had the more ooh, that sounded heavier, that sounded like it landed, and it looked better. But
Ige was going to the body.
And
there's something to that too, and that there's kind of it's not a hard and fast rule. Obviously, judges are trained to give credit to body work. It's not exactly what I'm saying when I criticize it, but it's been one of those things for any of us watching MMA. It almost feels like it doesn't count sometimes. And a further experiment, and again, I'm not a big person on numbers, and there's a whole argument on that, right? But they are pretty good for like a base level understanding when you're trying to get a grasp to see how far off you are from air quotes reality. And one thing I noticed is that go any fight that's like a robbery to controversy anywhere on that spectrum, and go to the fighter that you think should have won. I guarantee you the fighter that you think should have won probably went to the body more, definitely went to the body more, and probably even went to the legs more.
I agree, man.
And that's just human nature. It's not saying that it's not me piling onto the judges. It's just something that I wish people would acknowledge, that human nature, you see headshots more. So you see, like, that's why I have a very anti-criteria style. I like back foot, counters, body work. I have the worst style for judges because you really got to be clear in day, set yourself apart. And something I was told by, I can't say the name, it wasn't Sal, but a high-level judge, which I appreciated, is if, again, not everybody does, but he did say that this is a trapping that can happen with judging or even with judges, is that when you have that trend like what you're saying with Sal, and again, it's actually in the criteria for,
actual judging.
Immediate over cumulative.
Right.
And my problem with that is because everything, and don't get me wrong, we should want to work smarter, not harder, and we shouldn't purposely make jobs harder.
Right.
That being said, it's real easy to be like, man, there's a lot of action in 5 minutes, which there is. It's hard to make a decision, which it is, folks. So it's a real easy out to give yourself and go, you know what? I think he landed the biggest shot of the round, so I'm going to give it to him.
For sure.
And I'm going to use that piece of criteria kind of out of context as my shield here. It's my only shield, but I'm gonna run into battle with it. The danger of that is you discount the cumulative, and I use this visual dynamic, which again was okayed by a judge as far as the those carnival games, Eric, where you shoot the water gun.
Yeah.
And at the horse race, like one pace, right? So a good jab to the head or the body, let's say it's 1. Power shot clean to the head, maybe 3 to 5 paces, right? But those accumulatives are still being kept track.
Correct.
That person still has, and by this nature, I believe it keeps that fair. If you do some kind of system like that and you still want to say, I still felt fighter A landed the more impactful stuff, I'm going to give it to him. Cool. As long as you kind of showed the work and didn't just say, fuck all, as long as you're tracking that fairly and coming to your thing.
Well, again,
I'm cool with that.
We're talking very subjectively on stuff. And then, if my memory serves me correctly, it was 118 to 62 on total strikes.
Yeah.
That's pretty disparaging when you think about it, right?
Well,
it's almost doubled.
Yeah.
Right?
And even if those numbers are off, like I complain about a little bit here or there, that's still relatively almost double no matter how the final number gets cut. That's big.
Correct. So at what point do you say this is effective striking versus, okay, I landed 10 jabs versus 1 power shot, or I landed 10 strikes versus 1 power shot? Now, again, what did the power shot do? Did it sit him down? Did it wobble him? Did it stop or deter anything that was offensive coming? I didn't see any of that in that fight.
Sure.
Again, I was on the right side of the decision.
Yeah.
It's hard for me to complain, but we're just talking hypothetically. Yeah. And furthermore, for the listeners to understand, at least from my perspective as a coach, I look when I get Adelaide Bird in the corner as a judge, because I know Adelaide comes from the boxing background, right? And this is no knock on her. That's fair. But I'm telling you, I'm just trying to understand and get to know more of the judges' scoring and the way they score and maybe a trend. So in the corner, and I'll give this live example, Roman Daldisi versus Trevin Giles.
Yeah.
I knew that this was turning into a grappling affair that was not going our direction because Giles was doing such a good job on the feet that I know Adelaide is going to score this fight towards Giles.
Just those couple shots.
Just those couple.
Apart for her.
Exactly. So when you're having these 50-50 exchanges and you're looking for heel hooks, she's going, I don't really know what I'm looking at. Not that I don't know, but maybe she doesn't score it the same way she would.
Not a traditional like back mount for 4 minutes of the round to make it a little more clear.
And again, this is not being rude to any judge. I'm just saying I already know what she's going to be looking for. Get your ass back on the feet and let's go outstrike this guy.
Absolutely. And again, not piling on as we push on here, but I will say with Sal D'Amato, it's like there's two things. It's A, we got to remember that he judges the most, so he's going to be in what seems dissension of his own peers, which I think is a fair criticism. I know Annex brought up, but again, we got to remember he judges the most. And even though I don't want to pile on Sal, and I make it a point not to, I also will be the first to say that I agree with him the least easily by far than any other judge. That's historically going way back to like BJ Penn, John Fitch. Like I've been at least anecdotally tracking a lot of these guys' scorecards and trends because he used to be I think he's overcorrected because he used to be and this was a key for all judges, so this is, I'm not going to criticize Sal, it was the environment overvalued the takedown. But next fight, Speed Chess, Nina Nunes defeated Cynthia Calvillo, not much to say there. Gabriel Benitez defeated Charlie Ontiveros. I just had the under. That kind of went how I imagined. Tyson Nam defeated Oda Osborne. This one I felt good about because I actually went back to do the work, and Tyson Nam just destroys southpaws. He's like a little Hawaiian Tyron Woodley.
For sure.
Everybody's like, everybody criticizes his volume, but you put a southpaw in front of him, he's going to ice him.
Smokes him.
It was Woodley. Say what you want about Woodley. That guy just could beat southpaws.
Yeah, for sure.
So that was a nice catch. Quinlan recorded against him when Rodney James fought him, and I just that guy's got it. Whatever it is, I just knew he's got it.
Bro.
Yeah,
good on him too for he's a Vegas kid now, and he has Mike Costa. He's got a great camp behind him.
Nice.
And then, man, the last one thing on Jason Witt, like this is 2 naked low kicks that have got him put to sleep, man. Like he's got to change that in his game.
Kicking in that punching range and naked like that with the hand. You just mentioned that chopping hand too. That note previous in the podcast.
Yep.
And lastly, but not leastly, Damon Blackshear defeated Yusuf Salah. I didn't watch this one. No plays. Not much to say. All right, we're gonna go through speed chess here. There's the main card. Eric's got to get to pro, so we're just gonna get through. Mainly the main card because that's all I really research anyways, and I'll let you guys know what I'm targeting as far as what my interest is for the prelims. Okay, so we've got UFC 278 here going down in Salt Lake City. It's going to be headlined, of course, another rematch. It's like the year of the rematches,
right.
Isn't it, Eric? Right? But we got, of course, Leon Edwards challenging for the title, taking on Kamaru Usman. Again, for me, basically, I feel like from a betting perspective, I don't blame anybody taking the dog. I see people making an argument that, especially with the hype that Usman has, that price, even as high as it is, you could argue that that's worthy too if you want to throw something in. I personally have not played this fight. I don't think I'm going to play just from scanning the odds. There's a lot of, not to spoiler alert or deflate folks, but I don't like a lot of the lines. Perhaps Eric has some different stuff, so you got two perspectives this week. I am picking the favorite. My breakdown is up. I am picking him by decision. What's your reads? Any strong feels in this fight?
I think if you play Usman, and that's my play too, and I'm with you on that regard. I think if you play Usman, it's Usman by decision. I think you can get that chalk down a little bit on that, and I think that this fight is going to be a lot closer than their first affair. So, and I hope it is. I want to see a little bit of that, 2-2 going into round 5, and I think when you look at the pedigree and what Usman has as far as the wrestling base and the cardio, and something that he can lean on if he's ever hits any adversity, is he can always go back to his wrestling, right? So I think the Usman by decision play is good. Or I go on the dog. I think you sprinkle dog. So it's dog or pass for me, or Usman by decision I think is a good play.
Yeah, it hasn't moved too much either at minus 120. That's where it opened, and minus 120 to me is playable chalk. I mean, anything under minus 150, depending on your tastes.
Right.
Don't let me speak for you folks, but for me, that's kind of my rule as far as playable chalk that I like. We'll talk about some more playable chalk on this card because it's a lot of chalk. It feels the opposite of last week. We'll see how it ends up, but it feels that way. As far as technical stuff, I'm going to be looking out for Edwards' body kicking uppercuts, just because those are the shots from other southpaws that have troubled Usman. He seems durable as all crap, but he has looked like he's been hurt to the body on a couple occasions, right? Ultimately why I couldn't pick Edwards was just because whether it's dropping the last rounds against a Cerrone who had the flu, over in Singapore, or RDA had a decent 4th or 5th, I believe, as well, kind of let him back in there, and RDA actually took that fight on short notice. Nate Diaz obviously not in the best shape, not in the best sorts of camp. Another kind of shortened camp, I believe, for that fight. He has the strength. He has that strong run at the end there. The dude, and he said this himself, he just kind of loses track out there. I mean, I'm out there doing 2 or 3 minutes on an amateur level, and I'm being reminded how hard it is just to focus on a basic amateur level. I can't imagine 5-minute rounds at this top level with these kind of guys that are standing in front of Leon Edwards that he draws. Very tough. So I'm not trying to criticize, but it is a pattern though.
For sure. And I think from a coaching element, you have to remind him that we want to win every second of the fight. We can't have one lapse of judgment for 25 minutes straight. That it is razor sharp focus every step of the way, right? And that I think is very important if you want to beat a guy of Kamaru Usman's caliber. You cannot have one little lapse of judgment, because if you do, you might get your lights put out like that.
Right, and we're used to, like, especially, speaking for myself here, it's like we're used to people that maybe takes them a while to tune in, and they're a slow starter. Then once they tune in, they're good. But there's also the maybe the inverse, the transverse. I'm not sure what the proper wordage is, but the opposite with Edwards, where maybe you can check out late too. So something to look for.
Exactly. So you got to make sure, even if maybe you're winning the first couple rounds, right? Or maybe you're getting ahead, right? So it is that laser focus throughout the entire fight.
Absolutely. All right, co-main event time. We both like the favorite there, but again, I'm not. if you show me a Leon Edwards ticket, I'll be rooting for you. I mean, I won't be rooting against you in that aspect. But yeah, I agree. Decision is the way if you want to play the favorite.
Let me ask you, what's your give me your game plan for both guys. How do you feel Usman wins the fight if you're on Usman's camp and corner? If you're on Edwards' side? Give me some ideas on your breakdowns.
I basically think we're going to see more of this Trevor Whitman meld, and I think a lot of people were worried about we're going to get too much back foot. We're going to completely take away the pressure, because that is one thing to consider. He was much more a dedicated pressure fighter when he fought Leon Edwards the first time, whereas now not only do you have the fundamental work with Hoof for many years since then, but now you've got Whitman, right? So I'm going to be curious, does he play that mid-range, looking for jabs, L steps, kind of willing to have the fight? And if he does, we've seen Kamaru kind of dig it out late, as opposed to Leon, who can check out. But if I do see Leon winning, I would see it one of two ways. Obviously, not just, fluke punch or anything like that, like specifically the uppercuts, the southpaw uppercuts from the lead. And he's got a good southpaw double attack, so I do wonder if he focuses more on the body. And if not just, you shut down the liver or whatnot, you can get some crazy stoppage there. But I do wonder if that can help him perhaps get to the ground, because I think that Edwards is really underrated with his wrestling and stymieing. I think he can stymie a lot. Ultimately, I don't think he's as strong or as fundamentally sound of a wrestler as Usman, so he's not going to stop it from there. But I do wonder how much Usman's been working his ground. So when you go back to watch their first fight, he's working with a guy we're both very familiar with, my former coach Neil Melanson there, and you really see like Kamaru would be a perfect guy for like a Neil as far as that wrestling and whatnot, and you see some of those things there, but he's really floated more towards striking even before he made the jump from Sanford, right?
Agreed.
So it's like, who's he really working with his ground? And he was working with Burns, but they started separating a while ago.
Yeah.
And then with the jumping around and the traveling, and Whitman is mainly, focusing for striking. I wonder if Edwards could, because we've seen him with guys like Gunnar Nelson just take the fight to them in their realm and outdo them there.
Yeah.
So if he can get past that strong barrier and open things up, but again, the cardio, there's a lot of things that have to happen for that. Not enough for me to pick.
Well, that's the thing here too, and I think it's not a matter of fact or a matter of knowledge on my part. It's just a question I think you have to bring up if you are looking at this Usman side, where you go, okay, has he been training as seriously? Right? I'm not saying he has or hasn't.
Right.
He's he's a bit of a celebrity now. He's doing movies, doing all these things. So if you're on the Leon side and you're on the Leon camp, I think those are the kind of things you want to ask yourself and question. Like, okay, maybe we can catch him in a GSP, Matt Serra,
Kane Verdum. We were just talking about that, right?
Yeah. Amanda and Pena won. Like, maybe you can catch him on an off night where maybe his focus wasn't where it needs to be in this fight.
Sure.
And if I'm in the Usman corner or the Usman camp, I want to get on his legs or on his body, wrestling, body lock, snatch singles early. Why? I want to make him pummel.
Yeah.
I want to make him worry about the takedown, even if my end game goal is not to take him down.
Sure.
I want to put it in his head that I want to take you down, and I want to make you defend this takedown. I want to make you frame. I'm going to make you pummel. When you have a good guy who can strike as well as Leon Edwards can, fill those arms up full of blood, man.
Yeah.
Make him work there, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's going to be imperative for Usman, just to at least show the element of the wrestling and grappling early on in the fight, and I think it will set up his striking later on.
All right, Usman by decision. Rockhold minus 295 underdog, and then minus 360 is the favorite for Paulo Costa. So I ended up picking Costa here. This feels really tough. It feels like a dog or pass spot for me. I don't want to tip your hand, but is the betting interest the same as the analysis, or how do you see this one?
So I'm kind of in the same boat as you. I think if you go with the Costa route, then I think you got to go off a prop. I think maybe Costa inside the distance, right? That's probably the thing that would be the most relevant. I think the most realistic is Paulo Costa by knockout, something like that, right? But I think Luke Rockhold actually has more paths to victory if he fights this fight smart. And some of the things that tipped off to me that were kind of interesting was Luke's analysis of the way Izzy beat Costa, right? Use his length, use his rhythm, offbeat on the angles on the sides, attack the calf kick, do some really smart things. But the one thing that Rockhold really has that is very underrated in his game is his grappling, man. He is one of the best, slickest grapplers in the sport. Yes. And it kind of reminds me of a Martin Kampmann, where Martin Kampmann was always known for his striking. Martin's ground game was super, super good, man, and very undervalued, right?
MMA wrestling.
Right? And I think Rockhold has that pedigree where if he wanted to take this fight to the floor, that might cause a lot of problems for Costa. A lot of problems, especially with Luke's length and his range, getting on those Darces, anaconda chokes, get on the neck, things like that. I think that you can wear out a guy that has that big frame, big power puncher, get your wrestling involved.
I hear you, and I like that too. It's just so weird because I think we saw him with Jan Blachowicz. That was up at 205. That was Jan pre-title, right?
Oh, yeah.
So you kind of got to take that sample size. And, with the way he was talking and stuff, you never know where someone's at with their career. I kind of like that he's been buckled down at the Roofka gym with, we mentioned Perillo, again, a coach we both respect.
Right.
And, again, the boxing range, that's something he's got to fix, right, that retractions.
Yeah.
Of course, Perillo coached the guy who beat him, Bisping.
Yep.
And if you think about guys like Bisping, back to BJ Penn, Chris Cyborg, more relevant people like the Derns and Cheeto Veras, what I like is you don't really see too much of a back foot from their opponents. And I say that because, Luke Rockhold has had a tendency to get pushed back there because he's so comfortable training with so many wrestlers that if you looked at his stats for a while, he never really shot a lot of takedowns. Like, how does Luke Rockhold strangle all these guys? It was always kind of in the scramble of a fight. Yeah, or counter wrestling. His counter wrestling is good, which again, I understand that. So you kind of look at it that way, but what I like is that Perillo's guys, they don't really go off their back foot and fall because he gives them actual footwork. He gives them like real. I mean, Perillo was a real boxer for people who don't know, and that guy will impart some real tools in there. And I hope that the footwork really gets imparted into Luke, because if he goes toward the cage, that's Costa's kill zone, and then you're looking at that prop that Eric talked about.
I'm telling you, if you go back and read my notes, Uriah Hall versus Paulo Costa. In red writing on the top of the page, do not put your back on the cage.
Yes.
Do not put this
Kill
is
zone.
in red writing to Uriah.
Yeah.
We win this fight on range, cage control, our jab, and guess what? I had Uriah do in the end of round 1. Sprinkle in a takedown.
Yeah.
When did you ever think Uriah Hall would shoot a fucking takedown?
Yeah.
Never. But what did it do? It made him worry about it.
Alleviate some of that pressure, too.
Now in this fight, and when again with Uriah, but because of Luke's weapons, southpaw versus orthodox, you should see a very busy back leg kick by Luke Rockhold. If I'm in that camp,
yes,
I'm saying use your left leg to occupy Costa's rear hand.
Yeah,
kick the shit out of it. I'm not even aiming for his head. I'm going to kick at his wrist. I want to kick and jam that hand over and over and over. And then guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to poke your kidney or your liver.
Yeah.
I'm going to poke that thing. I'm going to make it look like I'm throwing a head kick, and I'm going to round it out and poke you with that thing. Then I'm going to go inside low kick over and over and over. And guess what I'm going to do later? That question mark kick that we've all seen. We've all seen Loke throw that thing.
Yep,
Let it come up and over top, right? I know he does it with his lead side. I know he can do it with his rear side. But what you wanted to do is make it look as if we're going to come to the body and then flick that thing right over top. Now, when you start kicking at the wrists, you're giving him an idea of where that kick placement's going to be. So occupy with the wrist, kick there about 2 or 3 times, and then guess what? You come upside. You come up to the fingertips. You bring that shin bone right above that.
You don't need much with him.
You don't need much, man. So I would love to see Luke Rockhold throw about 50 left kicks and place them in different places, areas on Costa's body in that first round. Collect your data. You want to look at where that rear elbow goes. Is it covering the body? Is it coming up too high? Is he skating off to this side, right?
Yeah.
Same sides, reloads, and add that left head kick,
And it encourages him to kick back with him, which is good because that ups the percentages of him falling down, a takedown, a scramble.
100%.
Pocket the right hand, and maybe they might collide traffic on kicks, but that's good because that'll create a scuffle, a stumble.
That's a great point. And sometimes, too, when I know we get a mirror kicker, right, and we have a wrestler, I have a Max Roshkoff in my camp.
Sure.
Max, I want you to kick a guy 100 times. Because the ego in the fight comes out. Oh, he just kicked me hard. I'm going to kick him back.
Yeah.
Thank you. There's our takedown.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
Yeah. The leg kick for a leg kick.
Leg kick for a leg kick.
And that's the ironic part is I'm talking about the things and the positives with the Perillo, but there are some classic things that Luke does that actually would work great for this match, including, correct me if I'm wrong, but when you were cornering Hall against him, did he not rock him with a southpaw check hook when he shifted back? That was right there, too.
Let
And
it
that feeds right off of counterbalance of the tactic you just said.
100%. And I think go and look at the trends of what you can pick up off of Costa. Utilize your best weapons and set the traps to get him there, right?
Yep.
So what becomes important is your movement patterns to the cage, not allowing the cage to only give you left or right lateral movements. But when you occupy center octagon, especially if you're a southpaw, you have half beats over to the 45-degree angle off of Costa's lead side. that sets up a lot of your stuff.
Yeah.
Right? So I think it's important, like you said earlier in the segment, make sure you keep your back off that fucking cage, man.
Yep, back off the cage. We don't have to talk about any other fights, and I would be happy as long as we talk about this fight. But we have Jose Aldo, who opened as a minus 170 favorite, now in the neighborhood of plus 110 to plus 120, depending where you look. Merab Dvalishvili, the man's a wild man. How do you not love Merab? Of course, he is minus 130. He originally opened as a dog. Money came in on Merab. Where are you at on this fight? Obviously, there's some betting angles and arguments, but I want to know what your analysis feel as far as just how you think it's going to shake out.
Analysis-wise, this is a pretty cut and dry classic striker versus grappler matchup.
Yep.
But what do you feel like when I look at this matchup, I just got to lean towards Aldo. I really do. And again, Merab cross trains. He'll come into the gym. I only see him maybe during once or twice, maybe a spar. I think he does more of his stuff at Syndicate. I think he's got Ray Longo. Sure. There's a lot of patchwork going on in the camp.
Right.
But he really has two pitches, right? It's like a two-seamer and a cutter.
Yeah.
You kind of know what's coming with this guy.
Yeah.
My question to you, what happens if Aldo shuts down 2 or 3 of those takedowns?
Yeah, I actually went back and what kind of leaned me this was kind of, and I hope it plays out like GM3 Bruno Silva, because it's the exact same feeling. I'm ready to say goodbye to my old guys who I love so dearly.
Right.
We see the writing on the wall, and that narrative has played out in the betting line, right? So I'm not crazy for feeling that, but again, I got to do the work here. And when I actually get in there, Cody Stamann, a guy you're very familiar with.
Yeah.
I found that matchup to be particularly enlightening. Now, I'm not saying, Cody's the next Aldo. No. I'm saying Cody can box really well. He goes to the body. He counters. He can wrestle. He can counter wrestle. He can defend. There's a lot of Aldo that he does because he's so fundamentally sound, and Stamann does not get enough credit. And that you go back and watch his fight with Merab, you see that. And I remember picking Merab and not being surprised that he won, but I don't remember Cody doing this good. Wow, I don't know if he gets that much credit because he does better than those rounds were closer than the shutout that
I agree.
You might read.
Yeah, and Cody had his moments in that fight.
Absolutely, and Cody, I believe he's more durable, more capable of pushing a more competitive pace than Aldo at this point of their career. Arguably more athletic than Aldo at this point of their career.
Correct.
And Aldo's an athletic freak. He's just older, right? So it's no disrespect to either that statement. But when you look at that, one of Cody's things is for different reasons than Aldo, because again, I think he can push the pace, but for whatever reason, maybe it's because he's fighting tough guys. Cody, sometimes I just wanted to push the pace more, right? And whenever he did throw shots in that fight, he was hitting them to the body, to the head. He was countering. He was doing things that Aldo kind of does in his sleep. And Aldo, even though he's more worried than a Cody Stamann when it comes to energy, you kind of wouldn't know it because of his veteranness and the tools that guy has. And again, it's no knock on Cody. Aldo, especially for us analyst geeks, I mean, he is like toward, if not the top of the mountain as far as
I agree.
Technical guys. And the fact that he's proving it down a division late in his career makes him that much greater. A la Dom Cruz, the fact that he's still fighting these guys, right?
And I think he's looked brilliant. His last few times out.
Yes.
He's definitely looked. If he wins this fight, I think he's next in line.
Yeah.
I really do. His performance against Rob Font was brilliant.
Cheeto Vera ages well now.
I mean, now look at that fight, right?
That aged well.
I mean, he went out and washed Cheeto Vera, right? So I think, to me, this matchup really reminds me of Mendez Aldo 2.0. It really does. It's like, man, you got this Chad Mendez guy who's an accomplished grappler. He's a power puncher over the right side, and Aldo defended takedown after takedown, but it was the reshot of Mendez that kept coming around where you saw the disconnect off the body lock and the knee right back up the midline. All those things, to me, I think Aldo has the situational awareness and fight IQ to not only stuff the takedown, but what we call redirect it. Redirect it to a point where your belly button is going into a different direction, but I'm going in an opposite direction where I can counter you. If you are defending a takedown over and over and over, but you aren't making the man pay for it, then it's just like a kid putting his hand in the cookie jar. If he keeps coming back and putting his hand in the cookie jar and you don't slap the shit out of him for doing it, he's going to say, I'll be right back.
Yep.
See you in 10. There's no repercussions for that, right? The other thing that kind of was alarming to me, if you're looking at the Aldo side for Merab or betting on Aldo is Merab got hit quite a bit against Marlon Vera.
Yeah,
I mean, he was rocked and he was dropped. But, man, this dude was a zombie, and he came back, and he was able to get that win. We're talking two different classes of fighters.
Absolutely.
We're talking two different classes of fighters, man.
And Aldo knows how to get guys out of there, but also when to pace himself, too. And I went back to watch that, too, and I was looking at the beats and stuff. And, yeah, just from technical to the way they're wired, where Marlon we've seen kind of have that drop-off, hence he's retired and has his own issues. And then last thing, it's a 3-round fight. I think that's huge. If it was a 5-round fight, I probably would have maybe stuck with my Merab and been afraid and been rooting for Aldo if it was 5. If he can't get, but I think that Aldo actually can win a decision here. I just think he needs to not get kind of like 10-8'd in round 3, which was my breakdown with the Cheeto Vera fight, and he was of course able to get the back. So folks, I put a unit plus 120 on Aldo. That's my that's one of my only bets so far, but I do like Aldo as a dog from a better perspective, and as an analyst, you're going to see it on my picks.
It's hard for me to go against that as well, and I think Merab has done a great job. I like the kid. I like his. I love him. But we have to be, like you said, non-biased in this scenario. And I'm looking at the breakdowns. I think you're going to see a lot of anti-wrestling strikes out of Aldo. Right. And what I mean by that is things up the midline, right? Teeps, knees. Crosses to the body, throw the cross to the chest, body shots. And remember, uppercuts also turn into underhooks, right? So I think you're going to see a lot of those, what we call anti-wrestling strikes from Aldo. And you're throwing those because you know Merab's going to set his head placement into one of those fit-ins, and he's just going to walk into one of those things, right? So, I think you can really go either way here, but I'm with you, man. If you're going to get Aldo at plus money, why not? Why not take it? When are you going to see Aldo at plus money sometimes against maybe the Piotr Jans of the world? Let's go ahead and take that bet.
It's done me well the last 2 times that. I felt like I've had those reads pretty well on those fights, so I'll definitely take it. Eric, I want to get you out here in a few minutes here for class, so I just want to quickly get to my next bet, just because you're familiar with this guy, Tyson Pedro. He's a minus 730 favorite, plus 530 Harry Hunsucker. Real quickly, obviously, I no disrespect to Harry Hunsucker, moving down to 205, seems like a nice guy. Some fast hands. For heavyweight, probably be just at home at light heavyweight, but cut it short. I'm going to go with Pedro here. I actually took a flyer on him round 1 sub while it was still at plus 850. Because even like his by KO is juiced all to heck, and I don't even want to all these lines are juiced all to heck here. So I'm just going to take the flyer by sub. But anything you want to share on Tyson Pedro? You work with the guy, seen him come through at all?
Yeah, I've seen him a few times come through. I think he comes from a great camp. His dad is in his corner. I think he's a city kickboxing guy as well.
Yeah, he's working with them now.
So I think this is exactly what you said. I think it's Tyson Pedro inside the distance, and maybe you can find something where it is by submission. He's showing the Kimura. Look at these fights that have aged very, very well by him. The Paul Craig win, the Khalil Roundtree win. He's had his hiccups here as of late, so much deserving time off. The Ike Villanueva fight doesn't really hold a lot of water to me, so you might be looking at a recency bias on the line when you see this. Oh man, he's gonna come out and steamroll this guy. So to me, I think that the value on Tyson Pedro is get him on that submission, get him somewhere inside the distance, right? And again,
I'll probably put inside the distance in a round robin. I don't know if I'll do round robin because even the props are so juiced. Round robin might be worth it, but he'll be in my long shot parlay, the inside the distance, if that's chalked up. Whereas the actual plus money on the sub, small. I only put my normal 0.17 U on that. Hey, Eric, real quick, and just another guy that that we're on it. We're going to kind of skip down. I'm going to clean up with you guys later. I want to let Eric go here, but he's very familiar with Jared Gordon, who's got Leo Santos. I'm looking at what Jared's round 3 is. I didn't research this fight, full disclosure. I am picking and leaning in the direction of Jared, who is open at plus 1,100 round 3. Not bad. I usually like that plus 1,200. That's close enough. I don't know. Maybe I'll take a stab at that. Anything on that matchup? Any thoughts?
Again, you have a guy in Jared Gordon and Santos are very, very accomplished grapplers, man. And I think Jared's grappling game is very underrated.
Yep.
And I was fortunate enough to corner him out in Abu Dhabi due to the COVID circumstances.
I remember that,
so I was very familiar with Jared. We were good friends. And then when he had a scenario, he was like, "Coach, I need you. Can you corner me?"
Sure.
So we got very familiar that fight week, and then going to see his styles and the way that he basically his fight IQ, man, and look what he looks for in those grappling paths. He has the same ideologies that we do at Xtreme Couture. It's like, hey, we're looking to freaking cook you.
Yeah.
Right? We want to beat you to a point where you go, just take my neck. Here, get me the fuck out of here.
And you're scoring in the process.
In the process. And I think Santos has had his breaking points. Yes. I think we've seen him make some questionable judgments in the grappling where he might be going for an armbar falling off the back and then gives up the position, right? Yeah. Or he seems comfortable laying there on his back playing the guard, and you see Grant Dawson beating the brakes off him from topside ground and pound. So I think, to me, if you're looking at the two styles of grapplers, I think you're looking for a slick submission guy in Santos, and you're looking like a juggernaut in Jared Gordon, who's trying to beat the piss out of you and cook the clock like he did against Danny Chavez, right, in those fights. So the one thing that I want you guys to think about when you're betting this, look at the anatomy of Santos. Big, tall, long limbs. Jared Gordon loves topside half guard, which we call here half mount, right? Randy Couture, half mount. So what does he want to do? He wants to sit on that knee line when you're in half guard, kill the bottom leg, eliminate any of the guard play, sit on that limb, and be able to inflict some heavy topside ground and pound.
Make him wrestle and tire himself if he wants to get anywhere.
Man, and I really, really love this Jared Gordon play here, and I think, I like that Jared Gordon finish in round 3. That makes a lot of sense, right?
Yeah, I mean, maybe you could compound it with something else. If you like Jared Gordon enough to take him straight up in a parlay, this is just like an added bonus.
Yeah.
Or maybe you play him inside the distance if you're still getting a plus money, but then you put the flyer play for the big, on that big plus 1100 number.
Good call. Jared Gordon's a guy that we don't think like he plays with his food too much. Like he's not, I could get this guy out of here.
Right.
He's a guy that loves just to cook somebody and beat somebody to the point where you're like, oh man, I didn't just get knocked out, right? You say I got caught. No, he's going to try to beat you for 14 minutes and 58 seconds of the fight, then finish you. Yeah. Beat the shit out of you.
I love it.
What else you got on here? I got a little time. I got about another 10 minutes. So
okay. Basically, to finish out the main card, bouncing back up real quick, I actually watched some tape on this because I have to write up the main card fights for Junkie. I ended up picking Pudilova over Wu. She opened at too high, so money's come down. Now she's minus 120. I wouldn't play anything here though, unless like you get like a crazy line flip. The only other two I was looking at, and I told you this, Eric, I was looking at Orichi Lang, who is opened at like minus 200 or so, 185, and he's down to like minus 130 to minus 150 depending on where you look. He's a guy that's been undervalued and done well for me. Came through inside the distance on a big parlay last time he fought. Yeah, wow. He opened at opened minus 185. Yeah, so you get a bit of a discount on him. I'm going to be looking at that for a potential chalk. Where is he at? Jay Perrin. There it is. Yeah, he opened at minus 300. Now he's down. Wow, so you're almost getting half the price on the guy.
Wow.
Against Jay Perrin, who I got to go back and watch, but I just will kindly say I really wasn't impressed. I don't think he's as good of a wrestler as Cody Durden, which is what bailed Durden out in that fight.
Yep.
No disrespect there, just saying it was a much closer fight than you might realize, I think, for in Orichi Lang's defense, so I'm going to be looking at that. And then the only other person I'm going to look at is Ang Lusa. I don't know if I'm going to play him, but he's one of my only underdogs I'm picking. For those playing at home, there's maybe 2 or 3 underdogs I'll end up on total. Maybe Toutmaster I'll take more, but for that alone I got to look closer at Angalusa. Anything that jumps out at you on the prelims or the fights I just mentioned?
Yeah, I'm kind of with you on the Perrin fight. Like I just really wasn't impressed with his last outing. I just to maybe is the matchup. I don't know. Is this going to be at flyweight? Is he moving down? Am I seeing something?
He looks like a small 130, bantamweight. Whereas Orichi Lang, he used to fight at flyweight, and I also think that was his problem. If you look at his losses, they were all at flyweight.
Right.
And the guy was killing himself to get down there. He's still durable as shit.
Yeah.
But now he's at 135, and in his last fight, he fought an actual 135er and looked bigger than him. So it looks like the guy's finally in his right weight class. Yeah, Cameron Else is not a small 135er, and this guy looked way bigger than him. He can counterpunch. There's Mongolians also. They have a lot of underrated wrestling. A lot of them grow up wrestling.
He actually came out and did a little time with us. I think it was like 2 weeks when he fought the Cody Durden fight. He was out here.
Trained with Rich as well, I think.
I think so. And then the Durden fight for him, I think that exactly was it. Was he just didn't really have the wrestling that he needed. But this to me is there's not an element of wrestling when I seen the Perrin fight. I think he's a natural Muay Thai guy or kickboxer.
Yep.
You know, and just what I saw his last time out, you know, I got to go with you on the what's the kid's name again? I'm going to butcher.
I know, it's hard. You can't look at it. Orichi Lang. If I look at it, it doesn't sound like how it's spelled, but that's how it.
Yeah, I think that's a good play, and especially if you're going to use that as maybe one of your pieces in your parlay. You know, and jump on that.
It'll take the value down.
It'll take the value down.
If it stays low, I may just play him straight up.
Yeah.
You know, play Aldo straight up. You hope either the dog or the chalk hits. If not, in a perfect world, both
there you
hit.
Go.
And then I've got maybe a couple flyers, maybe the Jared Gordon round 3.
Yeah.
The Tyson Pedro. So, by the way, Harry Hunsucker also fought Tai Tuivasa and Justin Tafa. They all have that samurai Maori.
Yeah.
That guy must hate those guys.
Dude,
he must hate us island boys at this point. He's like, not another one. Not another one.
That. I'm actually looking forward to the Romanov and Tybura fight just because of the heavyweights. Again, another prospect coming up through the heavyweight ranks.
By the way, elevation, folks. We're at elevation here, and that one I was going to look at to maybe do like a cheeky play on Tybura round 3, but then I realized that Romanov has slowly been the shrinking man, getting in even better and better shape. So not the time to fade him. Whereas Tybura coming off of a somewhat of a serious injury, not a lot of information on it, and Tybura can be hit or miss. He's kind of awkward out there. Like he did me well against guys like Greg Hardy. You know, he's a great spot there. But for this, no, I'm sticking with my guy Romanov and staying away betting wise because everything's juiced.
Yeah, and I think when you look at the level of talent that both of these guys have fought. You know, the Juan Espinino fight. Remember that was a very close fight until it turned into a technical split decision. There was some eye pokes.
It got ugly. Yeah,
it got ugly. There's some things there. The Rock Martinez fight. You know, kid out of Guam.
Yeah,
you know, it wasn't that level of talent. I think you would love to see. Chase Sherman came out with a good win his last time out. I thought he looked good. You know, it's tough to be critical on him, but I think he was on the outs.
Short notice too.
Took it on, yeah. But I mean, he literally was on the outs with the UFC and he was able to get back in. So I think when you look at the level of talent that Tybura has fought in, his resume,
much more proven.
It's much more proven. His resume to me is a lot better. You know, that Walt Harris fight. Walt, you know, I was actually cornering Walt in that fight. Walt came out and rocked him. He did the right thing, was able to score his takedown, and was able to get some very good ground and pound. You know, the Greg Hardy fight, you know, Ben Rothwell, the Machine Grisham fight, you know, Sergey Spivak, another guy who's up on the rise right now, is doing some great things. So I think, to me, the resume of Tybura versus Romanov, I don't hate putting a little flyer, little sprinkle on Tybura in this fight, man.
Yeah, that's where my instincts were too, because exactly the things you said. And Tybura is a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. He's one of those few heavyweights that can actually take a back and stuff.
Right.
And that's why I took a shot against him against Derek Lewis back in the day when he fought him. Because I'm like, well, Derek Lewis will give the turn, but Derek Lewis will trap people because he'll turtle so hard people will fall forward, right? And it got Tybura tired out a bit. But no, man, yeah, I don't hate it. Maybe that's why I'm staying away. But yeah, I just feel like that. I feel like he's better guy on top, and I don't know how many top positions he's gonna get on Romanov. If he does, though, you better hope you got a live bet in before that happened.
I'm very excited to see Miranda Maverick again come back. She's been working with my man Elliot Marshall quite a bit. And, man, I think
looking better each time after that move.
Looking better each time, you know, and you look back at, I think, her split decision loss to Macy Barber. Man, that was a very close fight, and I think you can argue that she won that fight. I'd have to go back and watch it.
She did, yeah.
I think it was a very, very controversial split decision.
That was the closest I've come to saying robbery. The only reason why I didn't is because I bet on it, so it would look bad. But people that never say robbery for that fight. I will say that.
So when I look at this matchup and people that fit like a puzzle piece into your grappling game or your coaching lineage, your ideologies, and the type of fighter that you are. Bro, I'm telling you, man, Elliot Marshall has been a wonderful fit for Miranda Maverick in her maturation, I think, as a mixed martial artist. I love that. I think if you're going to go Miranda, I think you can definitely look at her by submission, maybe Miranda by decision, right? You can sprinkle a couple things in there if you want to try to get that juice down, or make her one of your focal points in your parlay.
Yep, karate and wrestling is Sheena Young's background, but unfortunately for her, the karate shows through more than the wrestling. And karate guy here, not shitting on him, just saying it's what it is. It's what it is, right? It is
what it is.
But you know, I would like to see the wrestling more personally. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
I try to work on my wrestling, and I don't work on my karate, folks. there's a reason for that. But yeah, I like Miranda Maverick as a parlay piece, perhaps with Jared Gordon and maybe someone else. I don't know if I'm going to be getting too crazy on parlays, but this is the card that is kind of asking for it. I've obviously been more of a dog hunter recently, but nothing I like better than big winning night is be able to just be a pro like you've been there before, go into the next card and feel no pressure. I can maybe have just 2 or 3 bets here, small ones, and be okay with that and just have a disciplined night out. That's kind of where my head's at for this card. But yeah, I don't mind that. Of course, we talked about I'm going to be looking closer to Angalusa over AJ Fletcher. I know he's been training over there at Sanford Lusa. He's been showing, I know he's got losses, but he's showing improvements each time, whereas Fletcher's a wild man, which is fun to watch.
Old Tim Crater guy.
Tim Crater.
Crazy man Tim Crater. You better be a wild man if you're training under Tim Crater, man.
Crazy man MMA, MMA grappling there, because the guy that loves all the positions too. You could tell it's AJ Fletcher kid.
Yep.
He'll throw himself into all of them. Albazi, good grappler. I gotta see if he's worth that chalk price of minus 435 against Big Fig Francisco.
Man, I don't know if you want to play that. To me, I think there's a lot of value if you want to go. Maybe Figueiredo at just a small little flyer. Now I know Amir's been in and out of the gym. He's been training over Dewey Cooper, a guy who I love and respect.
Right.
But again, like, where's the grappling coming from? And if you're gonna go with Figueiredo, if I remember correctly, he finished his fight via knee bar last time.
Yeah, and he's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt himself, so this could easily be like a fight you just referenced, Dalid Zayn Giles, where you got a close ugly grappling match. And
there it is, knee bar. Wow, look at that.
Yep, there, good memory.
Yeah.
And that guy, he knee barred Daniel De Silva's on this card. Daniel Lacerda fights Victor Altamirano. I remember Daniel De Silva Lacerda kind of falling apart. I don't know if it was both gas and concentration or one or the other. But the point is, when you're a lighter weight class guy and you're not able to keep the concentration or the gas, it's a really bad sign. So for that alone, I'll go with a tough Victor Altamirano. If you've been following at home, we kind of just loosely went through the whole card. I know we went through Woodson versus Luis Saldana. I did not research this match. I'm leaning toward Woodson. I suspect it'll be his range boxing versus Saldana. I believe is kick heavy. Do you have a strong feeling about either of those two?
Very rangy. I think both guys at 145.
Yeah.
Big, tall, long, lucid guys.
Battle of the tall dudes.
When I watch Woodson, there's some couple things that I picked up from a coaching perspective that we like to do that we call trace steps, and he does it very, very well. Trace steps is when you let your cross hand side allow you to flow into your switch stance side.
Yeah.
So if you throw a long, hard right cross, let's say if you're out of orthodox, to give the viewers something to look at, hard right cross, and the guy inherently always wants to get away from the power hand side. That right cross then will flow into your southpaw, and we call it a trace step. So it's a 1-3 and funnel you over into a southpaw cutoff choke point in the cage, into your power. And that's, again, we talked about earlier tonight, hey man, you have to be able to hit from both stances.
Yeah.
And by able to hit from both stances and stay fluid in those stances, you're able to set those traps. And when I watch Woodson, he's very flowy and in and out of both stances. And I like what he's doing with the striking. When he fought Juicy J, that was something we brought up with Julian was, hey, let's get on some of those grappling exchanges with him and see how he fares in those. And Juicy J was able to pull out a Darce choke on him later in the round, but I think Woodson's doing some great things. If I remember correctly, he does his camps with my man James Krause.
I was going to say, that sounds like a James Krause tactic that you're describing there. So that would make sense, actually. Yeah, you're right.
You got to see me and James on the pads, man. I have so much fun when James comes to town. I'll hold some pads for him here every once in a while, and we get to exchange some back and forth, and I get to learn something, and he sees something that I'm picking up on, or vice versa. So, credit to those guys and what they're doing out there at Glory MMA, man. Meeting
of the minds, and credit to you, sir. This was fun. I think we covered everything because, again, folks, I'll do a quick recap here before we get out. But Eric, before I recap the picks here, thank you, man. This was long overdue. This was on my bad, by the way, just because people know that I've only had like one top 5 podcast this whole year, which means I've only had to really book one guest, truly. But I was like, now that I'm trying to do more guests for the pay-per-views and YouTube, even though we're not on YouTube, I apologize, but this is well worth your time. We got Eric Nicksick in the house. Thank you for coming on, man. I know it's nothing to you. It's no sweat off your back ever. I'm the silly one here, but I just appreciate it.
Well, man, you've been my boy for a long time. We shared a lot of blood, sweat, and tears on those mats together. All the way back from the early Xtreme Couture days. I mean, you're an OG in this gym. If I have to, I'll go in the database and pull up your member card, your member ID card. I think I sent you that screenshot a long time ago.
I was bummed out when I went back. They're like, oh, I guess you reset the system. I was proud. I had like a low digit number. It was like 3 or 4 digits only or whatever because I was one of the earlier
OGs,
people here.
Man.
Yeah, that's crazy.
One of the OGs.
Missed my number.
And I think a lot of people don't really get to understand the growth and the maturation that you and I get to see from one another.
Very blessed.
You know what I mean?
Regard.
You know,
very
so
lucky.
so when you talk about guys that were in the mailroom, right? We were the mailroom guys, you know, delivering the mail, and now all of a sudden we're CEOs of our company and
Coach of the Year.
Oh, we got to see the
Coach of the Year.
Please throw it out there, but vote for Pedro. But we've got to see each other from the ground level, working our way up and finding a niche in the sport, and not only that, man, celebrate each other's victories, and I think that's important. A lot of people get jealous of what guys are doing, man. We are each other's biggest fans.
Absolutely.
We love what we're doing, and praise your teammates and praise your fans and praise your friends and be in line with their goals as well, and help push their narrative, and retweet their podcasts, retweet their things, and I think that's what's so important about what we do here at Xtreme Couture is, man, we love one another, we care about each other, and we want to make sure that we're supporting each other's goals, man.
I'm so grateful to be healthy enough to finally start coming back to the gym on a personal. Of course, my listeners know this, and I'm sure you know what I'm about to say before even sharing it, just how important that is to have and be reminded of, because someone myself who is familiar but easily not forgot, but just human nature. You're stuck. Before the pandemic, I was stuck working in my house too much, going crazy before this shit started. So this has been just nothing but a beautiful reminder of that. So we all could take time to complain. I know that they leave us comments, likes, and reviews for this thing, but hit the thumbs up rather than the thumbs down. Support your friends rather than shit on someone, even if they deserve it. Like just send it in a positive direction. I think that's a great message there.
And I'll tell you what, it's so nice when your inbox or your request messages in Instagram is somebody that sends you something positive, and those are the guys that I'm going to spend a second or two to write back and say, hey, thank you for taking the time to write something supportive, because more often than not it's some profile picture that doesn't even exist, zero followers, zero posts, and they're just talking shit and saying something just to get something out of you, right? But remember, when you get things at a positive is a times 3, right? One negative is a times 10.
Yeah.
So if you get something that's 3 positives, you're at a 9. You get 1 negative, you get a 10.
Yeah.
It always overtakes.
Yeah.
But you forget about the 3 positive things that you were told by people that love and care about you, but your mind always shifts over to the negative.
Yep.
Right? So, hey, it is the name of the game. This is the way the society is this day and age, but don't forget to focus on the positive things around you and support one another, man.
Great message to get out on. Just want to give some quick shouts. Tony Satori, Mark F., I hope your treatment is going well, so we are all in your corner, man. Ed G., good to see you back. Rob G., thank you for the love and support, speaking of which, of this podcast. MixedMartialAnalyst.com if you want to support on it. Amazon click-throughs, as well as a secure PayPal link donation you can find at Dan Tom MMA on Twitter. While you're on Twitter, also you can find Eric at Eric with a C _XC MMA. He's really active on Instagram. That's where you can really find some real funny stuff, like him in videos of Puna that had me fucking howling.
Oh, God.
You had me fucking howling with that. So make sure you follow Eric on Instagram as well. Recapping taking Usman, I believe we both are, but again, bets aren't picks, so I'll recap what I'm looking at for bets at here, so don't get too excited. I'm taking Costa over Rockhold, but I think we did a really good breakdown on why you're not crazy if you want to take a shot. It's your money, folks. Definitely feels like a dog or pass, even though I'm not on the dog. I am on the dog, Jose Aldo, taking him, both picking and playing him. I'll recap the play in a second over Merab Dvalishvili. Love Merab, but just taking my guy Jose. Harry Hunsucker, not taking him, taking Tyson Pedro. I'll tell you the angle again. I'll repeat that here in a second. Also, staying in the theme of favorites, albeit a slight favorite. Money's getting tighter on this favorite, but Lucy Puddle for the old school listeners. Pujilova, if you want to be proper and actually pronounce her name the right way, over Yunan Wu, or Wu Yunan, if you want to pronounce that name the right way. Alexander Romanov, I'm taking him over Marcin Tabura, but I didn't play Romanov for a reason, because again, it just feels like another sneaky dog, and there are some good prices if you want to take any sneaky suspicions. Taking Jared Gordon, may have him in a parlay, may play him inside. Definitely going to scout out that round 3. I know Eric didn't hate that one either as well, from the bettings to the actual analysis on the side. Not super strong opinions, but I don't know if Eric loosely pick Woodson. I'm loosely picking Woodson, for example. No strong thing. No disrespect to Saldana. Just didn't research that one too much. Maverick, I feel good about just from knowing these two. Recently researching both ladies. She's definitely a parlay possible piece there. I'm looking at Lusa, but I still may end up on Fletcher. So again, at Dan Tom MMA, I post all my picks and plays on fight day. Apologies for posting them like with a small window. Of course, I have like a record week, so hopefully you guys jumped on. It's the same place every week. Taking Amir Albazi tentatively over Big Fig, but that just feels like you're asking for it. Again, similar to lower weight female fights, lower weight male fights. Although they have knockout power, you shouldn't underestimate, folks. That being said, a lot of action, hard to judge in these judges' defense, so, the dogs are a bit live there. Taking Altamirano over Daniel Da Silva or Daniel Lacerda, however it is coming up. And I'm taking Orichi Lang, the Mongolian murderer, over Jay Perrin. Maybe playing that too, so keep an eye out. Maybe playing that one. Maybe playing Gordon round 3, like I said. I already sprinkled small 0.17U on Pedro submission round 1 plus 850. Shout out to my guy Brazchuk for telling me that number before it got down to plus 600, where it's at recording. And I put 1 unit, Jose Aldo, plus 120 for 1 unit. Those are my only bets, keeping it small. I'm going to try to keep it small, but again, any long shots, any fun stuff, I will always post at Dan Tom MMA. Any words before I get out of here, Eric?
No, I love it, man. It's been great to do this. Like I said, love your analysis on these fights. Not only do I love the betting analysis, I love your breakdowns, man. I love what you're seeing in the fight game, and I think you're one of the best in the game that's doing it right now.
Thank you, man. Again, it's just a blessing to be able to do it and to do it alongside other people who came up from that proverbial mailroom as I keep learning lessons from people like you, people who have been in the game longer than us, as we both are always respectful with our ears too. So keep your ears to the grindstone, never be afraid to learn, and always protect your neck.